If you live with diabetes, you have probably heard this many times. You cannot eat fruit. Fruit is sugar. Fruit is going to destroy your glucose. Maybe someone already told you that banana is poison, that orange is forbidden, that watermelon is a disaster for your blood sugar. And deep down, you start to think that being diabetic means never enjoying fruit again. Today, I want to calm your mind and, at the same time, serious talk with you. I am going to explain how many fruits a person with diabetes can eat per day when fruit really becomes a problem, and how you can use fruit to help your blood sugar instead of fighting against it. Stay with me until the end, because I want you to finish this video feeling safer, more informed, and with practical ideas for your next meals. And if this topic already speaks to you, take a second to like this video and subscribe, because that helps this message reach more people with type 2 diabetes. The first thing I want you to understand is this: fruit is not the enemy. Excess is the enemy. Context is the enemy. Your whole day matters much more than one piece of fruit. I work with people with diabetes for many years, always with the same goals in mind. Reduce medication when it is possible and safe. Help people lose weight in a realistic way. Improve blood sugar control. And, in some cases, work toward remission of type 2 diabetes under medical care. One of the most common questions I hear is always the same: can I eat fruit or not? So today I want to give you more than a yes or no answer. I want you to understand how fruit behaves in your body. In diabetes care, we have two big goals. The first goal is to reduce glucose spikes, those moments when your blood sugar goes above around 180 after meals. If your glucose is often 200, 300, even 400 after eating, we need to bring those numbers down to a safer zone. We can do that with medication, but we can also do that with food choices. Every time you eat and your sugar jumps above 180, that meal had more carbohydrate than your body and your insulin could handle at that moment. This is a signal, not a punishment. It is your body telling you that something in that plate needs to change. So the simplest and most powerful tool you have is this: check your blood sugar with your meter around 1 to 2 hours after eating. If your sugar stays under 180 and you had a portion of fruit in that meal, that fruit is not a problem for you in that context. I do not care if it was apple, orange, papaya, or a handful of berries. Your body handled it. On the other hand, if you eat and your sugar goes way above 180, then yes, we need to adjust something. Maybe the portion of rice, maybe the bread, maybe the juice, maybe the fruit. This is why understanding your own numbers is more important than following a generic rule from the internet. Now we need to talk about something very simple and very direct. Fruit raises blood sugar. There is no magic here. Fruit has carbohydrate, mostly in the form of natural sugar. Some fruits have more, some have less. The problem is not that fruit raises your sugar. The problem is how much it raises and for how long. Whole fruit raises your glucose in a much slower and more controlled way than fruit juice. When you eat an orange with the pulp and the fiber, your body works. You chew, you digest, and the sugar enters the blood more slowly. When you drink a glass of orange juice, you are often drinking the sugar from 3 or 4 oranges at once with almost no fiber. The absorption is much faster and the spike is much higher. So when people tell you that orange is bad, many times they are talking about orange juice, not the whole fruit. The same happens with apple juice, grape juice, mango juice, and those concentrated fruit drinks. For someone with type 2 diabetes, juices are usually a bad deal. A lot of sugar, almost no fiber, very little satiety. If you already like fruit, prefer the whole fruit, chewed calmly, ideally as part of a balanced meal or snack. The second big goal in diabetes care is weight control. Losing a bit of weight, even 5 to 10% of your body weight, can make a big difference in your blood sugar, your blood pressure, and your medication needs. And here is where fruit can help or harm depending on the way you use it. I often hear stories like this in my consults. Someone tells me that mango season started and they sat after lunch and ate one mango, then another, without even noticing. 3 large mangoes have a lot of carbohydrate and a lot of calories. The problem here is not that mango is evil. The problem is the quantity, the habit of eating without attention, and the lack of balance with the rest of the day. To make this more concrete, imagine a medium banana, around 100 grams. Roughly, this portion has a little more than 20 grams of carbohydrate and a bit more than 100 calories. Now imagine you trade that banana for a piece of white cheese, around 50 grams. In calories, they are similar, a bit more than 100 calories. But the cheese has almost no carbohydrate, a lot of protein and fat. What does that mean in practice? It means that the cheese will not create the same glucose spike, but the calories are still there. This helps with sugar peaks, but does not automatically solve weight loss. For weight loss, you need to look at total calories along the week, not only grams of carbohydrate. That is why, in the first phase of treatment for many people with type 2 diabetes, reducing carbohydrates usually brings very fast results. Cutting sugary drinks, reducing white bread, reducing cookies and cakes, and, yes, often reducing fruit excess. Not removing fruit completely, but reducing the 4, 5, 6 portions per day that many people eat without noticing. I do not know anyone who developed diabetes because of 1 apple per day, or because of 1 small banana per day, or because of a piece of papaya once in a while. Most people arrive at diabetes after years of excess in many areas at the same time. Sugary drinks, refined bread, pasta, sweets, large portions, sedentary lifestyle. Fruit is usually just one piece of a much bigger picture. So how can you use fruit in your favor? I like to think like this. The higher your glucose is today and the more weight you need to lose, the more careful you should be with portion size and frequency of fruit. In that phase, it usually helps to choose fruits that have fewer grams of carbohydrate in 100 grams. For example, berries like strawberries, blueberries, and raspberries usually have less than 10 grams of carbohydrate per 100 grams. Strawberries are a great example. 8 to 10 medium strawberries can have less carbohydrate than half of a banana and much fewer calories than many snacks people eat. You can use them as a snack in the afternoon or in a yogurt without adding a big sugar load. Another interesting fruit is watermelon. Many times people demonize watermelon because it can raise blood sugar quickly. And yes, a huge bowl of watermelon after a carb-heavy meal is not a good idea. But if you look at the numbers, 100 grams of watermelon have less carbohydrate than many other fruits. The problem is not the fruit itself, it is the portion size and the context. A small slice of watermelon in a controlled meal is very different from half of a large watermelon eaten at night in front of the television. Melon, papaya, and citrus fruits like orange, tangerine, and grapefruit can also fit well when portions are measured and the rest of the plate is balanced. Again, the key is not to turn these fruits into juice, but to eat them whole, with their fiber, chewing calmly, and preferably not right after a very large high-carb meal. And I want you to remember this. When you look at a fruit, think about 2 things. How many grams of carbohydrate does this give me? And how many calories? For someone with diabetes, both matter. Now, a quick note about avocado, because many people ask. Avocado is a fruit with very little carbohydrate and a lot of healthy fat. 100 grams of avocado can have around 8 grams of carbohydrate, much less than a banana, but it has more calories because of the fat. This is not bad. These are good fats and can help with satiety and heart health. The only point is this. Do not imagine that you can eat unlimited avocado just because it has fewer carbs. If your goal is weight loss, you still need to respect quantity. So, after all this, the big question remains. How many fruits can a person with diabetes eat per day? I will give you a practical way to think about this instead of a rigid rule. Start looking at your meter. If your blood sugar is generally high, if your weight is above what you and your doctor consider healthy, and if your diet has a lot of carbohydrates from bread, rice, pasta, sweets, and drinks, it probably makes sense to limit fruit to 1 or 2 portions per day in the beginning, always as whole fruit, preferably those with fewer carbs and never on top of an already exaggerated meal. As your glucose improves and your weight starts to change, you and your health team can increase the variety and perhaps the amount. If your glucose is more controlled, if your readings after meals are usually under 180 and your weight is stable or going down, you can very often include 2 or 3 portions of fruit per day without problems. Always observe your numbers. The most important rule is not a magic number. The most important rule is this. Eat fruit with awareness. Choose whole fruits most of the time. Avoid juices. Watch your meter. And pay attention to your weight over time. If this video is helping you see fruit with less fear and more clarity, leave a comment telling me which fruit you enjoy the most and how many portions you usually eat in a day. I read the comments and they help me understand what you need in the next videos. And if you want to go deeper into this topic, we can create more content talking about practical breakfast ideas, snacks with fruit that do not spike your sugar, and example plates for people with type 2 diabetes. You do not need to live in war with fruit. You need to live in peace with your glucose meter, with your plate, and with your own body. Use fruit as an ally, not as an excuse for excess. The higher your glucose and your weight are today, the more careful and strategic you should be. The more controlled you get, the more freedom you can usually have, always guided by your numbers and by your health team. If this made sense to you, do not forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who is confused about fruit and diabetes. This kind of information can calm a lot of fear and prevent many mistakes. Take good care of yourself, measure your glucose, choose your fruits with awareness, and I see you in the next video.